Another Mother for Peace calls upon General Motors, get out of the war business, make us a car that won't pollute our air, and we'll buy it.
How do you ask a man to be the last to die in Vietnam?
People in time will develop a tolerance which will make war impossible.
Here we see a pineapple bomb manufactured specifically for the extermination of people.
There were phony news stories that the Yippies had put LSD into the water supply. To quote Mayor Daley, "The police were not here to create disorder. The police were here to preserve disorder."
I am war. Help me kill. All you have to do is do nothing. In fact, you can do me a favor. Don't even think about me. I am war. Help me kill.
It's movie night. We're gonna watch some old films. Vintage movies.
The human head. When this is brought in contact with a policeman's truncheon, watch what happens.
Vintage movies. Vintage movies. Vintage movie night. We're gonna watch some old films. Vintage movie night. Vintage movie night. Vintage movie night.
I believe this film is a beginning, no more, towards understanding vividly what is at stake.
Remember, we've got a God-given form of government, and whether it's run right or not depends on the people who do the voting.
War is a racket. It always has been. It is possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, surely the most vicious. It is the only one international in scope. It is the only one in which the profits are reckoned in dollars and the losses in lives. A racket is best described, I believe, as something that is not what it seems to the majority of the people. Only a small inside group knows what it is about. It is conducted for the benefit of the very few, at the expense of the very many. Out of war, a few people make huge fortunes. In the World War I, a mere handful garnered the profits of the conflict. At least 21,000 new millionaires and billionaires were made in the United States during the World War. That many admitted their huge blood gains in their income tax returns. How many other war millionaires falsified their tax returns, no one knows. How many of these war millionaires shouldered a rifle? How many of them dug a trench? How many of them knew what it meant to go hungry in a rat-infested dugout? How many of them spent sleepless, frightened nights ducking shells and shrapnel and machine gun bullets? How many of them parried a bayonet thrust of an enemy? How many of them were wounded or killed in battle? Out of war, nations acquire additional territory, if they are victorious. They just take it. This newly acquired territory promptly is exploited by the few, the self-same few who wrung dollars out of blood in the war. The general public shoulders the bill. And what is this bill? This bill renders a horrible accounting. Newly placed gravestones, mangled bodies, shattered minds, broken hearts and homes, economic instability, depression, and all its attendant miseries. backbreaking taxation for generations and generations. For a great many years as a soldier, I had a suspicion that war was a racket. Not until I retired to civil life did I fully realize it. Now that I see the international war clouds gathering as they are today, I must face it and speak out.
When they divide up the pie in Washington, do you ever wonder who gets the biggest slice?
Well, not Orangeburg, that's really.
Now for the jet.
Most of your taxes go to pay for wars, past, present, and future. What does your money buy? It buys you Vietnam, and with it, inflation, unemployment, disunity, and death. It buys you bombs instead of schools, defoliation instead of clean air and water, tanks instead of trains, and destroys homes instead of building them. Isn't it time we got out of their country and back into ours? Write your congressman. Tell him you need a bigger piece of the pie now.
In 1915, a group of women gathered in Europe to try and find a way to stop World War I. It was the birth of the oldest women's peace organization in the world, the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. This is their story.
Delegation bringing a petition for disarmament to President Hoover is but one of 30 delegations which are meeting in various countries of the world. England has obtained 1,300,000 signatures. Japan has obtained nearly 1 million. And so from one country to another, they are presented each to its own government, hoping to make something of a background of public opinion before the disarmament conference meets in next February.
And we entered Washington. And we were received at the White House, where we presented the signatures. And at the dinner that night, Hannah Clothier Hull, who was our national president, presided, and Eleanor Roosevelt was there, and Jane Addams. And in the afternoon, we had a big public meeting in one of the squares in Washington, and Miss Addams initiated the first round-the-world broadcast.
Many of us hope that in course of time, the millions of people who day by day see the newsreels, portraying as they do the inhabitants from every part of the globe, may in time obtain such a sense of identification, such an understanding of various kinds of life, that it will be quite impossible for them to visualize any of these as enemies. People in time will develop a tolerance which will make war impossible. And the old dream for universal peace will come about because the people will no longer tolerate anything else.
The Women's International League grew and became active in a variety of areas. They supported the League of Nations, produced educational materials, organized speaking tours, and held more international congresses. In 1934, Dorothy Detzer, a member of the Women's International League, led the push for a congressional investigation into the munitions industry. The findings of that committee exposed vast corruption and made clear the links between war and profit.
Well, one of the things which has been most interesting in the peace movement is to which way should it go? Would it go in the way of violence to change conditions, or will it go in the way of nonviolence? Then there's always been, groups that believed in nonviolence or opposed violence. But the great exponent of it was Mahatma Gandhi in India. When he preached that India must win its freedom, and it caught the attention of the whole world. And when he began with his salt march to the sea, unarmed people marching against what they considered an unjust tax, and he succeeded. It was really quite electrical what it did to all of the people who were not only peace people, but people who were interested in economics and in government and in world situations, world history.
The example of Gandhi gave tangible evidence of the potential of nonviolent resistance. All in all, it was a time when the work of pacifists was well received, and the hope for a peaceful world seemed like more than a naive dream. The rise of fascism in Europe in the 1930s put pacifism to the ultimate test. Many people who had been proponents of absolute nonviolence took up arms or actively supported others in the fight against fascism throughout Europe. Others still maintain their pacifist positions, arguing that although they unequivocally opposed fascism, violence was not the solution. At the outbreak of the war, the United States section of the Women's International League lost half its membership, equally because it was too pacifist and because it was not pacifist enough. Worldwide, members were lost because of persecution, exile, and death. The dropping of the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki gave a terrifying new meaning to the concept of war. A whole movement developed to fight nuclear testing and proliferation of nuclear arms.
In Japan, there is an old belief that a crane can live for 1,000 years. If you fold 1,000 paper cranes, they will protect you from illness. After the bomb fell on Hiroshima, August 6, 1945, the people folded paper cranes. Today in Hiroshima, men, women, and children are still folding paper cranes, especially children, for they are still suffering from radiation effects of the bomb. What is it like to be a child in Hiroshima so many years after the war? These children look like children anywhere, but the park they are playing in is called the Peace Park, and the monument behind them is the cenotaph, dedicated to the 70,000 people known to have died from the bomb, although estimates go as high as 200,000 or more. It was 8:15 on a hot summer morning, much like this one, when that first bomb flashed through the sky and destroyed the city in its flaming heat. Now children play in the fountain in front of the Peace Museum, which bears grim testimony of what the bomb did to the first city that experienced it. When they walk home from school to the park, the children can see the atomic dome in the distance. It was once the Industrial Exhibition Hall. Now it It is the only shell left standing from the atomic blast. But all children make their way to the Children's Monument in the park. It was erected after the death of Sadako Sasaki, who died from leukemia at the age of 12, 10 years after the bomb fell. Now children bring paper cranes as offerings to the monument. This young woman was a friend of Sadako's. They would have been the same age if Sadako had lived. But Sadako has already become a legend in Japan. She is the Anne Frank of Hiroshima, remembered for her tragic death from radiation effects. She was just one of hundreds of young people to suffer such a fate, but she became the symbol of them all. In her outstretched arms, she holds a golden crane. Who was Sadako Sasaki? She might have been just an ordinary girl gossiping on the riverbank, if she had lived. She was just 2 years old when the bomb fell a mile from her home, and uninjured. She was the fastest runner in her 6th grade class, a good swimmer, but suddenly she developed the signs of leukemia. She laughed and sang bravely when her classmates came to visit her in the hospital, and she folded paper cranes. She wanted to make 1,000, but she'd reached only 964 when she died. No more summer hiking, no more swimming. And then, as if the death of Sadako symbolized all their deaths, the children of Hiroshima rose up together to do something about it. They raised money for this monument to remind the grown-up world what a bomb can do to the young. Tell them, on the night of August 6th, the anniversary of the bomb, to think of Hiroshima. On that night, the members of the Folded Crane Club walk with lanterns through the city, and then float them down the Ota River to console the spirits of the children who have died. On each lantern they write a child's name. They send them out with a personal prayer that they, the living, shall keep their memory alive. So long as this life lasts, give peace back to us. Peace that will never end.
Our ground war is ending. Our troops are coming home. However, there's one thing we're leaving behind, an air war that has brought us to the brink of World War III. We not only bomb North Vietnam cities and harbors, we also drop over 50,000 tons of bombs a month on Southeast Asia. More than 2.5 Hiroshimas every month. It seems our government's peace plan is a bomb.
What is the Peace Collection?
Peace Collection is, well, it's an archival and special collection that seeks to collect material and document the history of peace and social justice activism in the U.S. and across the world. The collection was created in the era between World War I and World War II. Its seed collection was taken from the files of Jane Addams, who, as you may know, was a social reformer who lived in Chicago. She was one of the founders of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and also the Settlement House, the Hull House, and very involved in a range of social justice activities. Someone happened to call on her when she was in the middle of actually burning her papers late in her life, and they were horrified, and they said, halt, don't do this. And because the Swarthmore College had a collection of materials documenting the history of Quakers and the Friends, and a lot of that material was peace and social justice related. This person had a connection to Swarthmore College. They suggested to Jane Addams that she donate her materials and her papers to Swarthmore. The president at the time was very excited about it, and so created a separate collection from the Friends Historical Library here, that has now become the Peace Collection. So there was a curator appointed who was a kind of comrade of Jane Addams, and they continued to collect throughout the 20th century, and now we continue to collect in the 20th century. And we have materials ranging from, that document social justice activists who have been involved in things that you would immediately think when you think of peace activism, like, the anti-war movement in the 60s against the U.S. war in Vietnam. And then there's material like we have the records of the Fellowship of Reconciliation, some materials documenting the history of the Montgomery bus boycott, the work of Bayard Rustin, A.J. Musty, the War Resisters League, and various other organizations that either are connected to anti-war organizing or conscientious objection, but also to a wide range of other related topics.
Why is this collection important, and why should people know about it?
Well, I mean, there is so much material in the collection that I could talk about for a really long time that is unpublished and unknown, and our collections document the ways that people have organized for change over time, and the tactics and strategies they've used, some of which are surprising and helpful in the contemporary moment. Another way is to tell us that, we're not the first generation to struggle against big, powerful actors who want to do bad things, just in a general sense. And that helps us understand our larger place and a larger kind of trajectory of people who want to make change.
Our Air Force has developed a new kind of bomb. It's called the mother bomb. Each mother bomb contains 640 baby bombs, which are full of hard steel pellets. The mother bombs release the baby bombs. The baby bombs explode and scatter the pellets over an area the size of 10 football fields, with enough force to puncture the head or chest or stomach of a North Vietnamese soldier or a water buffalo or a baby. We're dropping thousands and thousands of these mother bombs on the people of Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos. Let's hear it from motherhood and the flag.
We bomb the villages and destroy them. We bomb the crops and destroy them. We, you and I, drop bombs brilliantly designed to kill farming people because we have a strategy. The strategy is to terrorize the rural population and cause them to flee into the cities, and thus create great unrest, and thus keep our pressure on Indochina. And we've been doing it all along, long before we hit Hanoi and Haiphong. And isn't it interesting that we can do this now with little risk to ourselves, without ground troops, and merely destroy people and their farms and homes through automation? There's some of us who call this immoral, and some who call it genocide. But still it goes on. What can you do about it? Well, this is still a democracy, isn't it?
Let us work ever harder to fulfill the last wish of Mrs. Hers, so that there'll be no war on the earth, but peace.
The atrocities being committed by America against the Vietnamese people have steadily grown worse. Continuous air raids are now going on against the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. At the beginning of 1966, Bertrand Russell, the British philosopher, proposed that an international war crimes tribunal be organized in the name of freedom and social justice and based on international law. The war crimes committed in Vietnam should be judged by the conscience of the world, says Earl Russell. We arrived in Hanoi on December the 21st, 2 days before the Christmas ceasefire. Mr. Pham Ngoc Tak, chairman of the Committee of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam for the Investigation of War Crimes, and also Minister of Health and Hygiene. Colonel Ha Van Lau, Vice Chairman Pham Von Bach. He is also Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. After making detailed arrangements on objects, methods, and schedule of the investigation, we started our on-the-spot survey. We started from Hanoi to the south along Highway Number 1 by way of Vinh, Dong Hoi, and Gu Toi. Our team first went down near to the 17th parallel. We then carried on our investigations in Thanh Ho, Nam Dinh, Tai Binh, Hai Phong, Vinh Yen, and the city of Hanoi. We drove more than 2,000 miles, over 27 days, talked directly with more than 200 witnesses, and collected a great variety of material evidence. Bombing by the Americans is mainly on such non-military targets as densely populated districts in villages and cities. Many educational facilities have been bombed by the United States. More than 120 schools have been destroyed up till now. This is all that remains of a middle school in Truy Dien. One of the schoolboys says, air raids have destroyed all the school buildings. We had sheltered in the dugout below the passage, but were all buried and narrowly escaped death and crept out again. One woman teacher and 12 pupils across the passage were killed. A crippled boy speaks. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning of July the 18th. An air raid began just as I came home from school, and I rushed out of the room in a hurry. Feeling uneasy about my father, I was running to the farm when down came a bomb and I was knocked to the ground. I remember nothing else because I fell unconscious.
Ở ngoài đồng, với là bố cháu về, với là cõng cháu đi sang bệnh viện, rồi sang kiểm tra băng xong thì cho cháu sang bệnh viện. Con còn xuống bà con cháu.
The band on this girl's head is a mourning band. She says, before the raids, I used to come home from school very happy with all my folks, father, mother, grandfather, and grandmother. But all 13 of them, including an unborn baby, have been killed. Only I am left. Even little babies are innocent victims of these American air raids. America has systematically attacked hospitals. In Thanh Ho and to the south, in particular, they have bombed all provincial and prefectural hospitals. This is the site of the former K-71 tuberculosis hospital in Thanh Ho province. There were some 50 buildings here. All are now destroyed. "30 people, including 5 doctors, were killed and many others wounded. Mr. Phan Son Thuyen, chairman of the Committee for Investigation of War Crimes of Quang Binh Province showed that America is making Vietnam a proving ground for their new weapons in this Quang Binh province, including the demilitarized zone on the 17th parallel. A machine gun ball, the fuse of a napalm bomb, a fuse from a CBU, napalm cinders scraped off the wall of Dong Hoi Hospital. Here we see a pineapple bomb manufactured specifically for the extermination of people. It weighs 20 pounds. When dropped, its flanges open and it explodes on touching the ground. On detonation, about 250 small steel pellets are scattered and kill everything within 50 feet. This is the ball bomb, the canister bomb unit, or CBU. It is the latest type. An improvement on the pineapple bomb, more effective for killing and maiming. It weighs about a pound. 300 small steel pellets are in its shell. These kill over a range of 10 meters. The ball explodes on landing. The parent bomb carrying these holds 300 to 600 small bombs. It separates into two pieces while falling, and ball bombs scatter over a wide area, covering about 600 feet and 3,000 feet in the direction of flight. The ball bomb cannot destroy military facilities. It is a weapon designed solely for the purpose of mass murder. In the company of the International Investigation Team sent by Bertrand Russell, we listened to the victims of ball bombs in the city of Vinh Yên. 4 children of Mrs. Vinh Thi Huey, who stayed at home, were killed. An iron kettle and a vacuum bottle riddled with steel pellets. This city of Vinh Yên was the testing ground for the mass use of these ball bombs. The penetration of a steel pellet is enough for a single shot to prove fatal. Although the wound is small, the pellet causes complex injury inside the body. It can be found only by X-ray. It is impossible for mass-produced victims to be treated quickly. We had an interview with an American pilot held as a prisoner of war, Lieutenant Commander Charles N. Tanner from the aircraft carrier Coral Sea, which uses Yokosuka, Japan as its base. What were the tactics you used in your bombing attacks?
Well, the tactics was to circle the town with fragmentation bombs so as to drive the people into their air raid shelters in the middle of the town. Then as the people went into their air raid shelters, then another pass was made to drop napalm to burn them out of the shelters. As they ran from the shelters out of the town, and then CBU was dropped on the outskirts of town to achieve total annihilation.
President Ho Chi Minh of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. Together with the International Investigation Team, we met President Ho. Severely condemning America for its war crimes against the Vietnamese people, Premier Phan Von Dong emphasized that there cannot be peace in Vietnam without independence and unity for the people of all Vietnam. While in Hanoi, we held 2 press interviews. Deputy leader of the group, Mr. Ishijima, speaks. From what I have seen with my own eyes and touched with my own hands, I assert on full responsibility that what the United States administration says is a lie, totally contrary to the facts. Mr. Kugai, a member of the team, says, "My impression and firm conviction is that America is using the Vietnamese people as guinea pigs on whom they are testing their new weapons." Harrison Salisbury of the New York Times, Wilfred Burchett, a famous Australian journalist. The statement issued by the Japanese investigation team says, "These acts by the United States clearly constitute a crime of aggression against the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, a crime against peace and against humanity, the crime of the use of unlawful and inhumane weapons, poison gases, and chemical weapons, which are forbidden by international law, the crime of attack on non-military targets and non-combatants, and so on."
When I was a kid, I used to be really proud of this country. I don't mean I choked up whenever I saw the flag or anything like that, but I thought those words on the base of the Statue of Liberty, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free," meant that this country really cared about people, no matter who they were or where they came from. But now when I see my country engaged in an endless war, a push-button war in which American pilots and electronic technicians are killing thousands of Asians without even getting their hands dirty, without even seeing who they kill. When I see us each week stepping up the tonnage of bombs we drop on Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, then I don't feel so proud anymore, because I thought that's what the bad countries did, not my country. What can you do about it? Well, this is still a democracy, isn't it?
That old man need not have died. Instead of the dried herbs in that tiny medical bag there could have been medicine and drugs. Many thousands of lives could have been saved. They still can. By contributing to the fund for medical aid to Vietnam, you could help to provide a pack of first-aid surgical equipment. Its cost, £23. Millions of pounds are being spent on new methods of killing. Can you spare a little to save a life in Vietnam? To heal a burn? To mend a bone? To stitch a wound? Perhaps you would like to provide a cradle for that little baby. Please, help to save a life.
Let's go, Lisa.
Charlie Sutton is the foreman of a packing plant in Wilkesville, Ohio. Belongs to the All-City Bowling League. Likes to walk his dog on Sunday morning when almost everyone else is still asleep. He contributes regularly to the United Crusade, Salvation Army, and the 7th Street Congregational Church. He also contributes regularly to the new war in Southeast Asia, the Air War.
Come on.
Morning.
Good morning.
Coffee?
No sugar, no.
Just last week, Charlie helped pay for the bombing of about 7 villages. About 200 farms, about 3,000 men, women, and children. What can he do about it? Well, this is still a democracy, isn't it?
And now, here's Yippee! Youth International Party was founded at a New Year's Eve party on December 31st, 1967. The Democratic Party represented death, so the Yippies decided to hold a festival of life during the Democratic Convention with free concerts, workshops in parks, Yippie Olympics, a week-long joyful presentation of an alternative lifestyle. The Yippies attempted unsuccessfully for 5 months to obtain a permit from Chicago authorities. Big Brother was watching.
I said to him very emphatically and very definitely that an order be issued immediately under his signature to shoot to kill any arsonist or anyone with a Molotov cocktail in their hand in Chicago, to fire a building because they're potential murderers, and to issue a police order to shoot, to maim, or cripple anyone looting any stores in our city. And above all, the crime of arson is to me the most hideous and worst crime of any, and should be dealt with in this fashion. I was disappointed to know that every policeman out on the beat was supposed to use his own decision. And this decision evidently was his. In my opinion,
the policeman isn't there to create disorder. The policeman is there to preserve disorder.
The towers seemed to tremble, and the boats were tossed about when the fog rolled in and the gas rolled out from Lincoln Park, the heart of Lincoln.
There were phony news stories that the Yippies had put LSD into the water supply. To quote Mayor Daley, "The police were not here to create disorder. The police were here to preserve disorder."
I saw the gases floating down upon America's youth. All the world was watching the terror in the streets. Hey, now telling you, hey, Johnny was there and Sally was there and so was Baby Sue. Acid, Bob, and Clean Gene and Dickie Daly too. Hey! I saw the look on the poor soldier's face with his gun in the young girl's side, and all the boys of Dailyland dancing in the maze.
We'll return to the revolution in a moment. But first, this word.
Hi, I'm Israel Danish for Yippie Helmet. You know, nature has a special way of protecting artificial and natural things. Here's an egg yolk. Look what nature has protected the egg yolk with. Nothing. Now, nature's real helmet, the natural helmet for the egg, is the calcium-lined calcium cover. Watch as policeman truncheon destroys egg. No good. Nature's helmet for the tomato, a bright red skin, is also valueless when the policeman's truncheon destroys it. Look at this, squash. Everyone thinks the squash is a powerful and aesthetic movement of vegetablehood, but yet policeman's truncheon destroys nature's squash. Eggplant. Eggplant is flexible, but brain damage has occurred inside. Death. Pumpkin. Closest thing to a human head. When this is brought in contact with a policeman's truncheon, watch what happens. And now the Yippie head, human's natural helmet concussion. Remember, Yippie helmet is one up on Mother Nature. This is the helmet.
And tell my friend she lies in stone in Lincoln Park, the park of Lincoln.
Despite the behavior of Chicago police, Yippie spirits remained high. Certain Yippies thought it necessary to practice self-defense maneuvers.
Oh, Chicago town, oh, Chicago convention will swallow with blood down the drains. Oh, Chicago town. I was standing around just provoking a smile. Nothing else to do, wouldn't be for a while. When this cop comes up and he says, I suppose you're one of them yippies. I can tell by my nose.
Chicago police claimed that they used normal restraint in the performance of their, oh my God, duties, but actually there are many opinions to the contrary.
Gentlemen, get the thing straight once and for all.
Oh, did you see that?
Overreaction, overreaction.
The policeman isn't there to create disorder. The policeman is there to preserve disorder.
Oh, did you see that?
Overreaction, overreaction.
Brothers and sisters were beaten and brained. Convention rules flouted with blood down the drain. Oh,
ow! Did you see that?
Overreaction, overreaction.
He threw me some gas.
Hey, Ma, see, there's me. See, I told you I didn't do any provocation.
That ain't legal.
Overreaction, overreaction.
I was kicked and stomped and clubbed to a fault, then thrown in the wagon and charged with assault. So Chicago town, oh Chicago town, the brothers and sisters were beaten and brained.
Did you see that?
Overreaction.
If this man was breaking the law, why was he not arrested? When the convention was over, the next phase in the Yippies' plan took place. It was called Operation Escape.
We gotta get out of here. We gotta get out of here. My God, they're right behind us. Hurry up, hurry up.
There they go. Don't let them get away.
They're right behind us.
Get the elephants. We need reinforcements.
Get that plane. Grab that rope.
Let's get those damn yippies. There they go.
Grab that rope. Oh my God, hang on. Hang on. Hurry up, hurry up.
Don't let them get away.
The Yippies decided to enter their own candidate in the presidential sweepstakes. Many are called, but few are chosen.
Sir, why did you decide to become a candidate?
In response to threats on the candidate's life, Secret Service protection was provided by members of veterans and reservists to end the war in Vietnam. The official Yippie campaign promises range from eternal life to free pay toilets. It is not that the Yippies hate America. It is that they feel the American dream has been betrayed. Early in '69, the Yippies will be in Washington for the inauguration of the pig.
That's not all, folks.
I was permanently disabled in Vietnam while serving as a Marine infantry officer. But despite my need to justify all the killing and the deaths of so many of my friends, I can't. Because I saw that any good we might have done in Vietnam has long since been lost in the misery and suffering of a war that still has no end in sight. Please, write your congressman and demand an end to this war now.
Well, I know if I don't go now, I'm going to go later on. Against my will, you know. And I might as well go in there and get it over with.
I was drafted.
You have any family?
Yeah, I have mother and father.
Do they know that you're going in today?
Right, I called my mother last night.
How did she feel about it?
Upset.
Yeah, what did she say?
Well, she said just take care and write me every day.
Did you try anything to stay out?
I tried everything. Almost everything. There's no way.
Yeah. So what is your family going to do when you're away?
Just live.
Yeah.
Worry, I guess.
Well, we've been trying. See, he got drafted before. Last month he was supposed to report and he just didn't go. And we tried everything, medical excuse, everything. And like right now I'm pregnant and I don't know what I'm going to do.
The President said Vietnam is this nation's most anguishing problem, but he said the Middle East is the most dangerous. He stressed that U.S. military strength will be maintained.
And do you and Doug want, Rick, you want to eat something? What? Maybe Ricky will. I really felt that way too. I just feel that I can't possibly give another one of my boys to the service. But we are so very grateful to everyone for all the help they have given us.
2 months ago, this Selective Service Center, which covers most of the San Gabriel Valley, notified Dan Willey that he was 1A. Yesterday, he was notified that his induction had been postponed. But even if it had not been postponed, Willey was going to go to school today. He does not plan to be inducted into the service. He is one of 5 sons in the Thomas Willey family of West Covina. 3 of his brothers have already served in Vietnam. 1 died there. The Willey family decided they had given enough, that this son should at least be allowed to finish college. He's the first man in his family ever to refuse service. His forefathers served in the Civil War, the First and Second World Wars, and his brothers in Vietnam. When his brother John died in Vietnam, the family tradition of service ended, and his parents said, no more.
I know what they went through when my brother was killed, and I'm not going to make them go through it over me. No matter what happens, I'll never go in the service.
We're not bluffing. I mean, it don't matter to them, you know, but geez, for 4 years we've had a monkey on our back and we're going to get it off one way or the other. It just ain't going to be in this family anymore. It's all through. We're not putting up with it at all. It's over with us.
I just hope they go ahead and give him his student deferment for a while anyway. Of course, we hope that it's going to be changed. That's really what we want. Anything to keep him out of service, keep us in the country.
No, we won't go up to anything to keep him out of the service. There will be no braces, or there will be no medical in any way, shape, or form. When it comes to that, we're leaving. The whole family will leave. We won't go that route at all.
I just felt that, and my husband felt, we had served sufficiently in this war, and that this family has been torn up by this war for 4 years, and if they take our other 2 boys, it'll be another 4 years before it'll be over for us. I don't know how to tell the story of how we found out. Of course, we were notified by the Army that John was missing first, and then 5 days later that he had been killed in action. How did we feel? I don't know. I remember looking out the window. It was Mother's Day, and the people were coming and going, and they were having company and so on. And I thought, why is the world going on? Don't they realize that it stopped? But how do you feel? I really don't know. Tom and I are very religious, and this is the only thing that saved us, I'm sure. We're very close. I remember when they gave us our gold stars, they gave us 7, 1 for each of my other 5 children and 1 for my husband and myself. And I said to my daughter, they left 7 gold stars, and she said, 7, what a strange number. It was a strange number to us. We'd had 6 children, and there was a family of 8. 7 never entered our mind till then. For months and weeks and almost this whole year, Tom and I have just wondered why we even try. You know, what difference does it make? What happens to you now? You get to the point where you think, why are you living? We felt that we had raised our children, and now they were dying, and we just wanted to be with Johnny so bad that we thought maybe if we die, that would be the best thing to happen to us. But I realize that you can't feel this way, that I'm sure my son's in heaven, and that someday we will join him, but you have to live for the others too. I know this. But what a world of depression it can be to lose a child.
I'm Donna Reed Owen, co-chairman of Another Mother for Peace. You can do something. Write Another Mother for Peace, Beverly Hills, California. 1 million voices raised together will be heard.
The Vietnam War has lasted longer now than any other war in the history of this country. It has succeeded only in tearing apart the fabric of our society. It's turned families against families. It's driven thousands into exile and thousands more into despair. It has helped us to write the saddest chapter in the history of the United States. As one who fought in Vietnam and who has seen firsthand the emptiness of our policy, I want you to consider, how do you ask a man to be the last to die in Vietnam? How do you ask a man to be the last to die for a mistake? 73% of the American people say they want us out of Vietnam by the end of this year. Please, make yourself heard. Write your senators and congressmen and ask them to vote for legislation to end this war now.
Pollution is not healthy for children and other living things. But while we choke in our cities, our money is spent on nerve gas. And poverty is not healthy for children and other living things. But while millions of children go to bed hungry every night, our scientists are working on better biological weapons to destroy crops. Our cities are burning, and we're devoting our national resources to napalm for the straw huts of Indochina. Why? Because there are profits made on Pentagon products. And there are thousands of companies involved, and some of them are very familiar names to us homemakers and consumers. From the Defense Department's own Defense Industry Bulletin, here are just a few of the most recently awarded contracts. Alcoa, $5,590,000 for rocket motor tubes. They carry fragmentation bombs. General Electric. Progress is our most important product. $5,969,000 for research and development of the Mark 12 reentry vehicle for MERV. Contracts on this item alone are expected to total $40 million. Whirlpool Corporation, $5.1 million for Beehive projectiles. Of course, we know they also make Kenmore and Cold Spot appliances. Bulova Watch Company, $2.6 million, metal parts for fuses, for high explosives. Borg Warner, $15,586,000, bomb bodies. Honeywell, $268 million for cluster bombs, rockeye, white phosphorus, anti-personnel mines, and other anti-people weapons. Motorola, $1.9 million, fuses for 40-millimeter shells. Hamilton Watch Company, $9.1 million, mechanical time fuses for artillery shells. General Motors, $1.15 million, electronic assemblies for Mk-48 torpedoes. Westinghouse, $16.9 million for Poseidon launcher and handling equipment. I wouldn't be surprised if it carried on the steel belly. You can be sure if it's Westinghouse. Every one of these companies spends millions on you. It's called consumer research. They want to know where you're at so that they can sell you their latest products. Well, let's tell them where we're really at. When we found out about cyclamates, we took them off the market. When we learned that thalidomide deformed our babies, we took it out of the drug line. Now DDT is going, and next year cigarette advertising will be off the television tube. Each day it becomes clearer to us that we consumers must act in self-defense, in defense of the health of our families, of our society. We must stop buying war. Another Mother for Peace calls upon General Motors, get out of the war business, make us a car that won't pollute our air, and we'll buy it. Another Mother for Peace calls on Dow Chemical, get out of the war business, make us a detergent that won't pollute our waters, and we'll buy that. Another Mother for Peace calls on General Electric, get out of the war business, design us cities that are livable.
Roger, on final for Fuller delivery. You show delivery. Bingo. Yes, very good. We have Bronco 3, we have
They keep finding new ways to end the war, yet somehow the killing goes on.
That doesn't mean they're entitled to the same rights as we have under the Constitution.
Right. So far today, 60 sorties have been flown into Iraq, bringing to 10,000 the total number of sorties since the war began. The war has been nearly bloodless for the United States and her allies, though at least 100 heroes have given their lives in the war. A war which Saddam Hussein once called the mother of all battles has not been much of a war at all. Anyone who has studied war and war strategy is mystified by Saddam's war plan. Has he any plan at all? Does Saddam have a secret weapon? Will Saddam use germ warfare? Oh, we have a live report from Saudi Arabia. Hank? Hank, can you hear me?
Daddy, why do people have wars?
Not good enough. Not good enough.
Daddy?
Shucks. Just a sec, Sally. What's up?
Daddy, why do people have wars?
War. War. Hey, turn that thing off, would you? That's a tough one. There have been wars for thousands of years. Most of the time, people seem to fight for land. Sometimes they fight for ideas. Sometimes it's real hard to figure out why a war happened.
Why are we at war with Iraq?
Well, tell you what, let's play a game about war. With Billy, too, okay?
Okay.
Billy, come here. Billy, we're going to play a game. Billy, you're Iraq. Sally, you'll be Kuwait. Let's put all these crayons in front of you. These are your crayons, aren't they?
Yes, Daddy, my crayons.
Billy, you take these.
I don't want to be Iraq. I want more crayons.
Play the game. Just play the game, William. Since I'm bigger, I'll be the United States.
Daddy, he took my crayons. He took my crayons.
It's okay, Sally. Let's call Mom. She'll help. She'll talk to Billy. He'll listen to her.
Hey, I'm the United Nations. Do you know what that is? Well, it's kind of a club that all the countries of the world belong to, and each of the countries sends someone to New York City, and they meet and solve problems. Now, Billy, the United Nations wants you to give the crayons back to Sal. I mean Kuwait. Or no dinner tonight.
No!
Well, Billy? Billy?
So you see, Sally, Iraq refused to listen, like Billy, and didn't give back the crayons. But they took all the land and everything the people in Kuwait owned, not just the crayons.
He had too many. How do I get my crayons back?
Well,
I think we can work this out, don't you?
I'll handle it my way. I pay the bills around here.
Baloney! Now, I think we can work this out like civilized people, George.
Get out! So, President Bush sent a real big army to make Iraq leave Kuwait alone. Now, give the crayons back.
I want Mommy.
And that's how a war gets started. Billy just won't listen. Billy, you have 10 seconds to give back those crayons. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up! The crayons, now! Well?
Please, Daddy. You're hurting him.
You have to break a few eggs to make an omelet, Sally.
Oh. 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 Stop. Oh. 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 Oh.
The crayons.
Please stop.
The crayons, Billy.
Oh, please stop. Oh. Oh. Ah, please stop. Oh. You can stop. Oh, I have all the crayons now. Oh.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Have you got them all?
Oh.
Look how strong and clever your father is, Sally. Look what he can do. Isn't it neat? Isn't it the greatest thing since sliced bread?
Ow! Ow!
Hit you in the eye.
Stop!
And that's the story of the war with Iraq. Get all your crayons.
Yes, I did. I did.
Now, Billy, you'll never want to take your crayons again.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm a representative of the Megabig Crayon Corporation. On behalf of everyone at Megabig and everyone who loves crayons and the freedoms they represent, I'd like to thank you for what you've done today. Here, Sally, here are more crayons than you'll ever need.
Oh boy, thanks.
And for you, sir, the keys to a brand new 1991 XJ60 gas sucker automobile.
Holy mackerel!
Where does your tax dollar go? 17% of the pie goes for human resources, such as social welfare, housing, labor, community development. Another piece goes for education, transportation, space, agriculture, and other costs of government. Where does the rest of the pie go? To the military to pay for war. Past wars, the present war, preparation for future wars. Nearly 2/3 of your tax dollar is blown on war. Isn't it time we stopped this tragic waste and saved a bigger piece of the pie for the things the country really needs? An end to the war is still up in the air. This election year, work to really end it.